Check, 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 check.
The news that's all about the news. The news, according to me.
So here I am. Oh, looky there. I got the wrong thing up for you there. I had some thoughts about the NRA this morning and really wanted to, you know, talk about that a little bit. Um, been a lot of flack about the IRA or the IRA, the NRA lately, and it's been a little bit disconcerting to me, mostly because, well, here's the deal. The president has come out and said, you can talk tough to the NRA. Don't be afraid of the NRA. And of course, the school kids, in their exuberance and albeit misguided, whatever it's going to be, their misunderstanding of how the NRA works and what the NRA is about. They're very quick to blame an organization and the hatred and the madness that they have towards that organization. Trump, the Republicans, Marco Rubio, the Republicans in Florida. They're placing blame and their anger towards some things that, in my opinion, are a little off. And I don't think I'm the first person to say this, but I just have to share it because it's my opinion. But the one thing to keep in perspective here is that my dog is trying to scratch a hole in the floor to right at my feet here, and I don't think he understands that it's carpet on cement, and it's really hard to. Now, the main thing that I think really needs to be talked about, or kind of step back and critically think through this a little bit. The NRA they don't sell guns. They don't sell. Well, they sell T-shirts and hats, and they do that kind of thing a little bit to raise some funds to keep their organization going. But they are a member, not-for-profit organization. Mostly memberships. I don't even know if gun manufacturers as a business can join the NRA. The NRA endorses candidates. I don't know that the NRA does a lot of funding. I don't know how much they give. I know that they're like less than 50 on the list of donors in terms of lobbyist organizations out there in the world, out there in our country. So we need to have some perspective sometimes. And it sounds like, oh, the guns, they're shooting every school up in the nation. Here's another little fact that we need to get with. There are over 100,000 high schools in our nation. Okay, when you start talking about the difference between Europe and here, a lot of times they throw the numbers around. There are over 300 million people in our country. That's like 5 times what it is in Europe, and it's a lot more than it is in Britain. So there's only a little over 20 million people in Australia. So you're talking about a huge difference in population per capita. And they always bring up Norway as this great, wonderful place. It's a utopia for the Socialist Party, socialism, the European socialists, as they say. And there's actually more mass shootings per capita. You're more likely to die there by a huge percentage in a mass shooting because the population is smaller. So when you start to relate it to that kind of a thing. But the NRA, the reason that it's tough to fight back against the NRA is because it's basically member supported. I mean, they've got over 5 million members, and I think that there's probably a lot more people that are actually in line. I actually am not a member right now, and I probably would be if they were a little bit more aggressive about fighting against some of the restrictions that they seem to be okay with. When, shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. And I hear even Sean Hannity and some people like that saying, well, as long as you're, qualified and you take some training, you should be allowed to carry a firearm. Sorry. I'm sorry. Here's the problem with that. That's not the law. And you're trying to change the law without changing our Constitution. And that's not right. If you want to change the Constitution, then get an amendment. Change the Second Amendment. Try that out. See how that works. Because that's where the problem is. Right now, if you start saying, well, we just need to not let people speak really freely, and the First Amendment needs to be restricted to those who until you're 21, you shouldn't get to use the your freedom of speech. The First Amendment rights should be restricted until you're 21. Okay, that would be argued against as if, okay, those high school kids then have no right to speak on this issue. Okay, so we can't do that kind of thing without some kind of understanding that you're infringing on our rights. You can't infringe on the rights. Hold on, it's live. This is live. Notice my shoulder is missing. This is live, and I just got a message. Probably someone wanting me to do something. Yep. So that's the way it is. The NRA is not in the business of selling guns, of training mass shooters, of anything. They don't want mass shootings. They don't, they're not looking for arming kids. And that's where I have the problem now. And I think there's a good argument to be made, at least, for this idea that now if you're between I was out of high school at the age of 17. I graduated at the age of 17. I was out there in the world. I didn't carry a sidearm, but there were some places I went to that I probably should have been carrying a sidearm. And I've had guns pointed at my face. I've been robbed at gunpoint. Well, they attempted to rob me. Let's just say that. So I know what that is like, and I frankly am a little concerned that there's some 110-pound woman out there who's out of high school, living alone, working hard, maybe working a night shift as a nurse or whatever she's doing, working some kind of good job, trying to make a living, and she's under 21 and she's unable to she's unable to purchase a sidearm because she's not 21. That bothers me because now she can't protect herself against some 250-pound thug that wants to come in, bust in the house, and harm her, or worse. So I think the real answer here is, the system broke down. The government broke down at the FBI level, even at the county level, which is the county sheriff is an elected official, by the way, and even at the state level, probably. I mean, the complaints that were coming through about this kid and how he was allowed to just continue to go on, and nobody really took it seriously, and he kind of fell through the cracks. It happens, rarely, but now a small number of people have been harmed in this situation, and they take their anger out, not on the person who perpetrated this, but everybody else. And they're trying to restrict the rights of everyone else because of what happened to a relatively small number of people. I know this sounds harsh and crash and unfeeling and all that, but it's just like 9/11. Millions of people every day are affected by what happened to 4,000 people 15 years, 16 years ago, 17 years ago now. I was an airline pilot that day. I understood it. I understood that the emotions were high. I had people, there were other pilots coming to me and saying, I don't think I want to be a pilot anymore now that they're using these airplanes as weapons. Okay. Do you realize the good that is done with an airplane every day? The amount of work that can be done, the amount of, to me, it seemed a little bit, and I understand that emotional reaction. I understand that kind of a knee-jerk reaction, how you're going to restrict pilots now from even carrying what they need to carry on the airplane to get through a 4-day trip. They were really doing that. They were kind of scrutinizing pilots as well as everybody else. So I just wanted to make this point really quick. I mean, I think I've talked now for 10 minutes, but it's a point worth realizing that to make the NRA as the boogeyman, the NRA is actually an organization made up of a lot of people. And I'm not saying that you should be afraid of them in terms of whether or not you're going to vote for or against something. But think about that. Think about in terms of the knee-jerk reaction that's happening and whether or not it would actually stop the same thing that just happened or anything else that just happened. We make these stupid knee-jerk reactions and knee-jerk decisions, and they really would not have stopped what just happened that got everybody all worked up about it. So I think arming the teachers is a good idea. Not arming every teacher. We only need to arm the number of teachers that want to be armed, just like we armed pilots. There's a big difference between a federal air marshal and an armed pilot. Here's the big difference. The federal air marshal has nothing to do on the plane except for sit there and go from one plane to the next. It's a very boring, monotonous lifestyle. You got to be qualified. You have to qualify every so many days, so many months, whatever it is. You go to qualification. You fill out a bunch of paperwork. You do all this. You're mostly doing paperwork and and you got this sidearm on your side, and you're on the airplane, and that's about all you do. You go from one flight to the next. And unfortunately, what most of them did was hit on flight attendants. And they would go to they go to a hotel every night. They'd be on this trip, just like a pilot would be. Only they had no purpose for being there other than to carry a sidearm and guard the plane. Now think about how many thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours are flown every year without an incident. And partially the reason there's no incident is partially because people know there might be federal air marshals on the plane. So they're less likely to try to attack an airplane now. The other thing that weighs in on that is the fact that if you try to get to the airplane and try to get up to the cockpit, one of the pilots might be armed. Now the reality is there's a small percentage of pilots that are armed. But you don't want to take that chance because you don't know who they are. The same thing in a high school. Maybe only 10%, maybe only 5% of the teachers are armed. That's all it takes. You don't know which ones are and which ones aren't. You're not willing to try anything on school premises if you know that there might be some teachers there that are going to hurt you. And let's face it, everybody says, well, the teachers aren't going to guard them if the trained officer isn't going to run in and try to help the students, then the teachers aren't going to try to help. The teachers are also being shot at. I guarantee you that one teacher that with his own body, covered the students up with his body to protect them, I guarantee you, if he'd had a gun on him, he would have been shooting back. I guarantee you. People, and maybe 1 out of every 1,000 of them wouldn't. I don't know. But he would. He would have probably done that. Most of them, chances are, he's probably going to do it. And it only takes the knowledge that some of them are armed to deter you from walking in there into a suicide mission. I mean, there are people who will do that. There are people who will walk into a school, just like there are people who will blow themselves up on an airplane or blow themselves up in a crowd or on a bus or whatever it is because they are on a literally suicide mission. There are those people who are that radicalized that will do that kind of thing. And I don't know what you're going to do about that, other than just having limited access to the inside of the school. That's the other thing. You have to harden the doors. You have to make sure that there's ways to protect the students from that kind of thing coming in. So that's my 2 cents worth. And thanks for watching. I do everything. I do most of my shows live. However, because of the way YouTube has throttled people back, and my show doesn't really get out there on YouTube much. I do put it on Facebook and I have some other venues that I post it. Once I post it here, I share the link somewhere else, and I actually take the video and I do something else with it. But as far as I like the YouTube platform being live, but the problem is they don't do anything to help my show get out there. I usually get 4 or 5 views, and that's probably just YouTube bots checking it out. So I'm thinking about changing my format a little bit and actually not doing a live show and going to a regular segment on a regular basis. If you happen to watch this, let me know what you think of that. As I'd like to put, just make a comment below or something, or thumbs up or thumbs down, or click the thumbs down twice. But just let me know what you think and any comments below, and I'll be hopefully getting a few more views on this just because it's about the NRA, and there's a lot of people hot about that right now. So this is show 1. I plan on doing a couple more shows before the end of the week because I'm going on a trip out of the country for a couple of days. And so I'm going to try to get a few more in the can, as they say, before the end of the week. That's all I've got to say, and I think if I can find the right button, because it's been so long since I've done this show, I don't know which buttons to push anymore. So I'm going to push this button, and we're going to go out. I think it's this button right here, but if it's not, then we're going to do something else.
This has been another
Well, it's trying.
amazing episode of The News According to Me.